Hey everyone, it's Noel Bagwell, and I'm here for today's Rise Above group coaching session. I'm really excited for you to join me, and I think we're going to have a really good session this week. And I just want to let you know that if you haven't been tuning in regularly, you've been missing out. We've got all the Rise Above group coaching sessions on YouTube, and I really should queue up a link where you can just go to the Counsel and Clarity channel on YouTube right here from the stream. I'll do that next week. I'll try to remember to do that next week. Get some social links and that sort of thing in there. One of the ones that you can go ahead and grab right now is the link to follow me on LinkedIn. And I do usually post, or I've been making an effort to post links to the replay. So if you miss the group coaching session, there is a replay that's available. And I do kind of lurk, as it were, in the Rise Above group coaching session here on LinkedIn. So you can jump into the LinkedIn event, and there's a chat there, and you can ask your questions, which can be answered live in the chat. I think we also are able to sort of import comments and that sort of thing from the other channels where the stream is being broadcast. So YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, X. Please do like and subscribe on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. So if you are watching this on YouTube, hit that bell icon so you're notified whenever there's new content, and do like and subscribe on YouTube. That will help us grow the reach for this powerful resource. And what we do in the Rise Above group coaching session is for free, absolutely free. There's no charge to join it or be a part of it or get your questions answered. Every week, I show up on Thursday mornings, 10:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, and I talk about a given theme. It's usually a leadership theme, a resilient leadership theme, often something that's covered in my book, Lead Again, A Modern Guide to Resilience. And we'll also pepper in some legal insights as well. Because I am a preventive lawyer and a resilient leadership coach, I'm the author of the aforementioned book, Lead Again, which is due out for publication February 29th, 2024. We're on track for publication. All the final edits are in. The book updates that I've mentioned in previous sessions, they've all been made and applied. And I'm also really excited about an event that's coming up. March 16th in Clarksville, Tennessee at the Montgomery County Public Library. They're having a local authors event, and I've been invited to be a part of that. So if you want to come out and get a signed copy of Lead Again, or get your copy of Lead Again signed, come to the Clarksville Montgomery County Public Library on the 16th of March. I believe it starts at 1 p.m. So come and check out the local author event in Clarksville. That'll be a lot of fun. And this week's theme, so we only have a couple more minutes for introduction time. This week's theme is receptivity. So we're going to be talking about the important role that receptivity plays in leadership, and especially in resilient leadership. So let's kind of do a quick overview of what I mean by receptivity. In my book, I talk about transformative receptivity, which is mastering leadership through feedback. As a leader, your ability to influence others is closely tied to your level of receptivity, which I sometimes refer to as influence ability, because it's your ability to be influenced and your ability to influence others. Largely, if you are not receptive to feedback, other people aren't going to be really receptive to your ideas. There's a give and take in relationships, especially if they're truly leadership relationships and not management relationships. I've made that distinction before. I believe leaders ought to inspire and motivate and kind of pull people along in the direction that the leader is going, not drag them to things, but motivate them to want to follow the leader. So I guess I could just leave this follow me on LinkedIn up there, but let me actually take that down. I just noticed that's up there. Okay. So so we want people to follow along, right? There are lots of leaders who have a hard time leading because they're not open to feedback. They don't, therefore, they're kind of blinded or deafened to what's going wrong, like why people aren't following them, why people aren't listening to them, why people aren't excited about their ideas. Without that crucial information, you're going to be kind of like that John Travolta gif from Pulp Fiction, where he's kind of like in an empty room and he's wandering around like, where is everybody? You're going to show up to the party, nobody's going to be there with you, and you're going to think, what the hell? What's going on? Where is everybody? And I think people have an attitude towards, feedback like, oh, okay, I guess we have to listen to everybody's feedback and figure out what do all the peasants want, right? Because you feel like, well, I'm in this position of authority, and so people should just follow me because I'm in authority. I have this role. I have a job to do. Why don't people see that I have a job to do? And they just plow forward. And so many people in leadership positions do that without really a whole lot of thought for how the people who are ostensibly supposed to follow them may feel about following along. And they get frustrated. Well, why don't people see what I'm trying to accomplish? Don't they value this as much as I do? What's going on? And they're confused. But then when it's time to listen to feedback, they don't have a great attitude about that. They're not really enthusiastic about embracing feedback and opening up to others. Now, in a listening session or a town hall meeting or whatever, that's very PR friendly, right? There's lots of talk about it. They will pay lip service to receptivity and to the importance of feedback all day long, but they're going to take all those suggestions from the suggestion box and put them through the shredder at the first possible opportunity. They want people to feel like they have been listened to without actually having to listen to people, and that is a shame. Don't do that. It's a huge mistake, and I'm going to explain in this session why. First of all, when you think about receiving feedback, I want you to think about how you feel. I've explained how I perceive a lot of leaders have felt about feedback, and both in organizations that I've been a part of and organizations that I've supported. Right? I've seen clients and people who are prospective clients, that we've talked to them about their issues and consultations and what's going on with them. And in those conversations, it becomes clear that they have some pretty strong and negative associations between feedback. They see it as griping, as complaining. The suggestions in the suggestion box are, largely negative in their view. And I think it's a good idea for us to take a moment in this group coaching session, because this is meant to be interactive. And whether you're tuning in live or you're watching the replay, you can interact in this exercise, right? Take just a minute while I'm speaking and jot down your thoughts on a piece of paper or in a little note in your phone or in your computer. Jot down your thoughts. At the top, write feedback, and then under that, how I feel, and then maybe some like bullet points or just whatever. Just each one on a new line so that you can keep it nice and organized and see it at a glance. Write down your thoughts about how you feel when you think about feedback and receiving feedback. Imagine you're in your normal leadership role or your last leadership role or the leadership role you would like. And it's time to open the suggestion box, or it's time to conduct a town hall, or it's time to have a Q&A with your team. And the stated purpose of this meeting is to receive, it's for you to receive feedback, for you to listen to other people's thoughts and feelings about you doing your job and how you do your job and how your leadership could be better, could be improved. It's kind of a review, right? It's kind of like a performance review in a way. While leaders' receptivity is crucial, equally important is their approach to handling the feedback. So this involves both internalizing the feedback, so bringing it into themselves and holding a space for that doesn't leave them completely triggered and feeling disrupted. internally and emotionally. Let me move this microphone. Sound quality may improve. There we go. I hope that improves the sound quality. I just realized my microphone was kind of far away. So you have to internalize the feedback, but you also need to actively engage with it. It's not enough to bring it in and think about it and go, I hear you. That sounds good. You also need to respond in a meaningful way. It doesn't mean that you have to criticize or judge. It just means that you need to allow yourself to feel something about it. Encounter it with a bit of vulnerability. That doesn't mean you have to get your feelings hurt or you have to get all up in your emotions and triggered, or you have to believe. You don't have to believe it all either, right? You simply need to accept it as this person's authentic, valuable experience of your leadership style, and understand that that's valuable to the extent that it relates to how motivated they're going to be to follow you. And that is something that you both should have a strong interest in. You both should have a strong interest in how motivated your followers are to follow you. The follower should have an interest in that. The leader should have an interest in that. So it's common ground. But many leaders react negatively to feedback and they feel defensive. They often feel very defensive because they have this perception that their abilities, their competence, their, trustworthiness, whatever it might be, their character is under attack. They perceive that they are under attack. And the stronger they identify themselves with the leadership role, the more personally they're going to take it. The more their ego is bound up in this perception of themselves in this leadership role, the more personally they're likely to take the feedback as a personal attack or insult. So you might say, well, they just have a huge ego. What a narcissist. No, not necessarily. Maybe, but not necessarily. They might actually have a somewhat low opinion of themselves, but really highly value that role in their lives. And that role that they see themselves in might be really close to how they understand themselves, their core identity, something that they are, not just something that they do. And when their ego is that closely tied to the role, attacking their ability to perform in that role is going to be received by them as an existential threat, right? And that's why these leaders sometimes react badly. They feel like they are being personally attacked and they don't like that, or they're being personally criticized. What leaders need to understand is that feedback is actually helpful. It's diagnostic, right? And every failure, by the way, every failure in your life can be redeemed, can be transformed by converting it into feedback, learning the lessons from failure. And part of the big work, the heavy work of transforming setbacks to comebacks is recognizing the failures, not as you are a failure as a person. It's not that, right? It's this effort failed. We had a hypothesis. We had an educated guess about how things were going to go. We tested that and we were surprised. We were surprised at the results. Things didn't go as we expected. Our educated guess was not correct. And that's okay. That's how science works. You learn a lot more when your educated guesses are wrong than you do when your educated guesses are right, usually. Because you're surprised. If the universe works in a way that's slightly different than you thought, then your understanding of the universe can change, but only if you're open to it. And like a good scientist, a leader should be really open to surprises, right? You had a setback. Things didn't go the way you thought they should go, or the way that you thought they would go. Now what? What are you going to do with that information? Are you going to just reject it because you demand that the universe conforms to your beliefs about how it should be? Or are you going to adapt to the way the universe works? If you fight reality, you're likely to lose. There are very, very few people who can reshape reality to fit their agenda. It takes a lot, and it usually takes a lot of cooperation. I don't know of anybody who does that on their own. People who think they do on their own, they tend to be delusional and crazy people, right? So the only people who really change the world are the people who change the world in cooperation with others. Even Jesus had 12 disciples and deputized them to go out into the world and spread the gospel, right? So like even Jesus didn't go it alone. Um, Many leaders, though, they think they can, they think they should, they make it all about them. And it's largely because their ego and their identity is really closely tied to the role. It's not because they're narcissists, it's because they don't make a huge distinction between themselves and the role that they're in, which is a mistake. You should. Doesn't mean that the role is not important. It's just not all that you are. And when you get a little space, you drive just a little bit of a wedge between yourself and that leadership role, and you step back, you can start to see it a little more dispassionately. I won't say objectively because nobody does that really. But you can see it a little more dispassionately. You can see it with a little more reason, and you can take a little more patience with yourself. Then you can recognize that the feedback you receive is not a personal attack, but it's constructive feedback. It's diagnostic information about how you can actually perform better, be more inspirational, more motivational, more cooperative, and more collaborative with the people who are leading you. In other words, you're going to be more attractive to them and you're going to be more effective in getting them to do what you feel they need to do in your role. This is good for you. It helps you. And to ignore it is like refusing to eat healthy food. You're going to end up not having what you need to move forward. So, feedback is constructive and healthy and necessary. It is not personal criticism. And when you understand this, that's maturity as a leader. It's a hallmark of maturity. It's not the entirety of maturity, but it's a hallmark of maturity and leadership. And that maturity, that understanding, that awareness transforms feedback from a source of discomfort to a valuable tool for development. So when I encounter a leader who doesn't like feedback, my brain automatically, with this understanding in mind, heuristically applies the label to them: immature. Immature leader. They're an immature leader because they're hostile to feedback. They don't have a deep awareness, a deep understanding of the value of feedback. And they are like a child who wants to eat candy and ice cream at every meal and never eat their vegetables. They're childlike or childish. Take your pick, depending on how judgy you want to be, I guess. It's not always true. Sometimes there's more to it, but that's sort of the de facto heuristic that I've got, right? For when I encounter people like this. Avoiding stagnation is avoiding stagnation. Avoiding feedback is a path to stagnation, not to growth. It locks you in to insisting on things stay the way they are right now. If you're not open to the fact that things might be different than you believe they are or the way you want them to be, you are stuck right there when you insist the universe must conform to the way I want it to be. I insist that this other person see things my way. You're stuck. And there's no opportunity for you to grow. There's no opportunity for them to grow. There's no opportunity for the relationship to organically flourish. And stagnation leads to death. If you're not growing and moving forward, then you're just stuck like a fly in amber. And as a leader, it's important to restructure all these negative associations that we might have with feedback and view it as valuable and constructive insight. Because if you see it as a personal attack, your amygdala gets activated, you get a defensive response, you resist the feedback, you refuse to accept it, and you get stuck. And your organization gets stuck and nothing happens, and your competitors pass you by. You might have a lot of inherent biases. You might have a lot of preconceived notions. And to overcome those when it comes to feedback, you need to challenge your own perspectives and remain open to alternative viewpoints, even ones that are diametrically opposed to your own. And I think a great way to start with this is to encourage genuinely, not just with this sort of smarmy, smile or die town hall, like, yay, we love the suggestion box. Let's have a meeting where we open the suggestion box, right? Not this sort of kindergarten type approach with treating everyone's feedback is valuable, with kid gloves. We don't want to do that, right? Not with a saccharine, smarmy, insincere, inauthentic approach, but authentically, genuinely, deeply embracing an environment where feedback isn't just accepted, but solicited. You're actively asking for it as part of most processes. At the end of most processes, there should be an opportunity for feedback. And it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be a 5-minute survey. It doesn't have to be 10 questions. It might be, rate your experience of this process on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. And then would you like to add any comments? Even if they don't want to add comments, you can just, if someone is going through a process every day as part of their workflow, and every day they're rating it between like 1 and 3 on a 5-point scale, then whoever's job it is to review the feedback would be like, why does this suck? Right? It seems effective. It seems like it's effective for its intended purpose, but the person who's doing this hates it. What's the problem? There's a disconnect here between the person and the process, and they haven't really left any comments. Maybe I need to go talk to that person. It's an opportunity for a conversation. And then you might start that conversation by saying something like, I've noticed that you do a good job with this process and it's meeting all the goals that we have for it. It's not great, maybe, but it's good. But you consistently hate this. It seems. What's going on there? You want to tell me about that? I notice you haven't left a comment, so maybe you don't feel comfortable talking about it. Maybe you're concerned about the way a comment would be received. But I want you to know that I care about how content you are in doing this task. And I feel like we'd all get more out of it if there was a way to get the rating to like 4 or 5. What would need to happen for you to rate this 4 or 5 at the end of every feedback loop? And listen to what the technician in that role and performing that task says. And if it's possible and cost effective, implement the feedback. The Japanese have a word for this. It's called kaizen. It's continuous incremental improvement. It's one of the secrets to Toyota's success and other companies as well, right? Lots of businesses and even high-performing individuals pay for feedback, and they pay a lot. They pay consultants to come in and do exactly this and surface the feedback from the operational layers of their businesses and their lives. And a lot of times it's because they haven't cultivated an environment where this is always solicited and welcome and encouraged and safe. It's actually safe. There's going to be no retaliation for negative feedback. There's no such thing as negative feedback. There's just feedback. You may or may not like it. You may or may not have valuable feelings about it where you say this is valuable to me, because you may or may not like it, right? But it's all useful for some purpose. You just have to drill down to what that is. Where is the usefulness in here? So understanding the theory that I've been explaining behind feedback is really just the beginning. The true test for leaders lies in the practical application. And I've given an example of what that might look like, but it's useful to look at, I think, more real world examples, not just sort of theoretical or hypothetical examples. This has been a key. This isn't just my opinion. This has been an observable phenomenon, a key driver of success for some of the top performers in business and tech and culture. Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, transformed that company's culture by fostering openness to feedback and revitalized Microsoft's innovation and employee engagement at a time when it had kind of stagnated. Jeff Bezos at Amazon attributes a lot of his company's success to its customer feedback-oriented approach. I'm not sure how much they are known for listening to employee feedback, but they do get a lot of customer feedback, and they demonstrate how external feedback from customers can guide strategic decisions. Initially, in the early Gates, the co-founder of Microsoft consistently sought feedback from his employees, which was a practice that was fundamental to his ability to adapt and lead effectively. It was sort of in the lull between Gates and Nadella that feedback sort of waned, I think, there, and Microsoft took a somewhat different approach. But it's back, right? Feedback is back. Leaders that have strong character demonstrate a high receptivity to feedback, particularly when that feedback is solicited in ways that are likely to make the feedback constructive. You want to ask people how they feel, but it's good to limit the range of emotional expressions sometimes. You don't want like really extreme emotional feedback. What you really want is thoughtful feedback that is driven by deep emotion. It's good to have strong feelings about things, but when you're giving feedback, the best thing to focus on might not be how you feel about it. It's important to express that, but it's more important to express why you feel that way and how your feelings can change. The why and how of feedback is much more useful. Great leaders possess a high level of receptivity. They're open to feedback and new ideas and diverse opinions. And this openness does create some unique challenges. So, especially if these ideas are accepted by, a minority or a group with limited decision-making power. So, I deal with a lot of companies that they structure the equity in their company a certain way so that one person or a small subset of people has most of the power. So think about like a limited liability company, and it has 5 members in it, right? And 4 of those members split 22 or sorry split a 20% ownership stake in the company, right? So they each have 5%. And then one member, the 5th member, has 80% of the membership in the company. So you've got this massive power imbalance. Now, there might be some decisions that require the unanimous consent of all the members. They all have to agree for things like winding up and dissolving the company or adding a new member. The operating agreement for that limited liability company might say all the members have to agree. But for day-to-day decisions or like regular sort of non-existential management decisions, from corporate management decisions, the operating agreement might say that it only takes a majority of the members voting their membership interests to carry a vote, or a majority of the members in a quorum might say that for a quorum to be present at any meeting of the members where a vote is held, for a quorum to exist, then a percentage of membership interests totaling 85% or 90% or more of the total issued and outstanding membership interests has to be present. In other words, you'd have to have that 80% member there and at least 1 or 2 of the other members for there to be a quorum, for there to be a vote. And then a majority of not the per person, right? Not a per person majority, but a majority of the voting interests in the company would carry the vote. So you vote your membership interest. And what that means is you're going to have at least 2 or 3 of the members in any given meeting. But that 80%, the guy who's holding 80% of the membership interest, he's going to carry every single vote. And he's never going to be outvoted. It's impossible to outvote him. And you'd say, well, then what does it matter if the other people are even there? Well, because disclosure matters, transparency and communication matters, accountability matters. So, but that person in that meeting that has 80% of the, authority that's going to carry all the votes that are not, required to be unanimous, that person really needs to listen to the feedback of the other members, because it can cause deep problems in the governance of a community, of a company, if the person who has the lion's share of the power refuses to listen to everybody else. Then you might have transparency, but you're not going to have a high amount of actual accountability. So we need to cultivate receptivity in our leadership roles, and in even corporate like structures, I think. And whoever has the lion's share of the authority is usually automatically going to be looked to as a leader, and they might actually just be a manager, but it's healthy to acknowledge the assumption that they probably will be seen as a leader. Lots of people talk about so I want to talk about like leveraging receptivity and preventive law, and how we use both great leadership skills and preventive law together. I think usually in these group coaching sessions, I'll mention something about preventive law or a preventive law resource, or I think I mentioned the Corporate Transparency Act and how important it is to comply with that now in 2024 and going forward from there. But I don't always like do a great job, or I haven't done a great job of marrying resilient leadership together with preventive law. But really, my resilient leadership work, at least the professional aspects of that, really was born out of the preventive law work that I've done for 11 years now. So it's important to see how those two pieces work together, and I need to do a better job about talking about them together. It's easier to kind of focus on one or focus on the other, but this topic of receptivity gives us a wonderful opportunity to bring them together in a powerful way, right? Because a lot of legal problems start as leadership problems. A lot of legal disputes and lawsuits, shareholders derivative suits, where you've got the owners of a company suing the officers or one of the other owners of the company, those start with leadership problems, where people are they're not doing a great job of cultivating agreement and buy-in and collaboration. Instead, they're just charging forward and dragging people along with them. If they didn't do that, if everybody agreed, lawsuits rarely would happen, because lawsuits happen because disputes happen. Disputes happen because people don't agree. And if you can lead people to agreement, then essentially you're going to avoid disputes, you're going to avoid lawsuits, and you're going to save your company, your organization, a lot of money, and prevent disruption. You're going to be able to use all the resources that you would use on hiring a litigation attorney, on maybe hiring a fractional chief legal officer who can help you add value, make your company more valuable, make it more stable, make it more productive, more profitable, right? I'm not saying you're not going to need a lawyer. Instead, you're going to need a different lawyer. You're going to need a lawyer that you would prefer to hire. People think one of the reasons I think people avoid lawyers is because they think of lawyers as just either document monkeys. We just got to crank out the document like little organ grinder, just crank out the documents, crank out the contracts. They think of them that way, or they think of them as litigators in the courtroom in legal disputes. But lawyers do a lot more than just that. They help with regulatory compliance. They help with employee issues. They help develop policies and procedures. And they really help to solve problems and manage relationships in a business. And that is largely the role of strategic legal counsel, like a fractional or part-time chief legal officer, which is the role that I play. That's my normal role in supporting my clients, as a part-time chief legal officer. And in doing that, a lot of the legal work that you do, it is multifaceted. It's not just strictly speaking, looking at a regulation, interpreting that, and so on. Instead, it's looking at the positive way things are, and then looking at the normative way things should be, and finding creative ways to bring those together in harmony. That requires you to be adept in understanding leadership, motivations, human psychology, marketing concerns, sales concerns, sort of understanding the way transactions work, the way operations of the business are. It requires a very holistic view, right? And if you want to take that holistic perspective and you want to prevent legal disruption, you want to prevent compliance issues, compliance problems, failures to comply with regulations. If you want to prevent human resources issues like employees being disgruntled and looking for reasons to claim that they've been discriminated against or whatever, because they're just not happy in their job and whatever, right? If you want to avoid all of those things, you want to avoid conflicts with your stakeholders, conflicts with your customers, conflicts with your vendors, conflicts among the owners of the company. If you want to do that, fundamentally the first and best thing that you can do is embrace really high quality feedback in a way that's receptive, and developing some awesome policies and procedures for how to surface that feedback is so crucial. Remember, it's not enough to just ask the person, well, how do you feel about such and such? Well, you can do that if you want to, but then you're going to get an answer to how do you feel? And that, if it's a deep emotion, it might be a long answer. I feel terrible. I hate this. Let me tell you the depths of my hatred for this. And you're like, oh crap, that's not really what I asked. But it is really what you asked. What you really wanted to know is, why do you feel the way that you feel, and how can I help you feel better about it? What can we do? So you need to ask some more constructive questions. You need to ask some more helpful questions, some smarter questions. It's kind of like dealing with AI. If you want to get a really good answer out of the AI, you have to start with a really good question, a really good prompt. You have to be super specific. And it's often good, if you want to get a good answer out of AI, to give the AI an example. Say, here's an example of the feedback of the output that I would like for you to give me. Here's a great example of that. Now, I don't actually want the information that's presented in this example. Instead, I want you to tell me about this. Here's my query, here's my question, and here are all the relevant factors that relate to the answer to that question. And I want the output to look like this example. You can do the same thing with your employees, with your vendors, with your customers. You can kind of show them a testimonial if it's a customer, like, here are all our testimonials. Now, would you give us a testimonial? And because they've seen an example of the kinds of testimonials you've received before, they are primed to give you a similar kind of one. And I don't just mean a positive one. I mean, they're going to talk about the same kinds of things. So, and you might surface like differences in between. You might say, well, I want kind of a different kind of feedback. I want feedback around this other thing that past customers haven't said. Still show them the old testimonials, show them the old like video testimonials or whatever, the old reviews you've gotten, and say, could you give us a review about your experience with this part of our business? And then the subject matter will be talking in a way that's responsive to your query, but in form and format and length and style, it's probably going to look a lot like the other reviews you've received. And that's very, very, very useful. Proclaiming an open door policy for feedback, by the way, and that's a way a lot of leaders get feedback. They say, well, my door is open, come in anytime. They don't really mean that. You still have to probably make an appointment or whatever. It's very rare that someone can go, hey, do you have a minute? Maybe they really do mean that. Maybe they don't. But in my experience and observing, lots and lots of leaders, their open door policy really means they want you to feel like you can be free to express your feedback, but you really need to do it on their terms in a schedule, on a schedule that works for them, and in 5-minute slots, right? What they really, I think, want people to feel is that they won't be punished and they won't be ignored if they do provide feedback, even feedback that's challenging. That is noble and that is admirable. But we need to go beyond that. Of course, punishing people or ignoring people when they provide feedback that's intended to be constructive, whether or not you actually perceive it as constructive, but if it's intended to be constructive, and you should give people the benefit of the doubt, right? In punishing or ignoring those people indicates poor leadership, and it erodes trust in your leadership. And trust is kind of the currency. I've talked about that I think in a previous group coaching session, how trust is kind of the currency for leadership. And people will be making huge withdrawals from that trust account that they have with you, right? If you ignore them or if you punish them for feedback. Imagine a relationship with your significant other, with your spouse or whomever, right? And you say, "Well, I really appreciate when you tell me, how I look before we go out. I ask you, do I look good? The classic, does this dress make me look fat?" Right? And if you ever say, "Yes, it does." Oh, that, you know what? Like horizontal stripes that's not the choice for you. Don't do horizontal stripes. Don't do it. It's not a good look. Or, you know, I don't think you can pull off polka dots, right? Or whatever. I don't know, whatever the thing is for them. Be like, hey, the huge hoop dangly earrings, that's going to be a no for me, dog, right? If you tell your spouse that and they go, how dare you say that to me? Are you likely to ever be honest with them again? Nope. And yet, that's the very dynamic that we cultivate with a lot of people. We ask them for their opinion, they give the honest opinion, and then we punish them for it. And then we're shocked when they lie to us. We're shocked when they tell us what we want to hear. We're shocked when they refuse to give any feedback and when they refuse to open up. We're like, well, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me I had lettuce in my teeth all night? Well, because the last time you asked me for feedback and I was honest with you, you bit my head off. So of course I'm not going to be honest. I'm going to be like, "Oh, you look great," you know, because they don't want to be punished for giving honest feedback. Whether it's a relationship with your spouse, or whether it's a relationship with anybody, or it's a leader and follower relationship, the human nature and the human dynamic is the same. The interpersonal dynamic is the same. Nobody wants to be punished for being honest. And if they are punished or ignored for being honest, they'll just be like, if they're ignored, they're going to go, "What's the point? Why would I tell you?" And if you punish them, they're going to be like, "I'm not going to tell you that because that was a horrible experience. I don't want a repeat of that." The only way to get people to be honest and proactive with you is to make it safe. Make it safe for them. You have to say, "You know what? I appreciate that. I hear what you're saying. I value your opinion. Um, I still feel good about this choice. I still feel good about lettuce in my teeth. I still feel good about horizontal stripes or big dangly hoop earrings or whatever. So I'm gonna just do my thing, right? I hope you can find a way to accept me as I am." And so, but thank you for being honest with me and telling you how I feel. I'm not going to take that personally. I'm not going to take that as you don't love me anymore because you told me this dress makes me look fat. Oh my god, right? I'm not going to do that as a leader, metaphorically speaking. I'm not going to do that. I'm instead going to go my own way and do my own thing because that's what makes me me. Or, you know what? I really appreciate that, and I asked you for advice. I'm not going to ignore it. I'm going to change before we go out. How about that? Revolutionary. You're taking the feedback and you are applying it, and you're not getting hurt. Like, kudos to you for being self-aware and emotionally mature, right? And mature as a leader. You're taking the feedback, and the feedback might be, "Hey, boss, the Monday morning meetings, not useful for anybody. Not useful. It's just us listening to you talk about what you did this weekend. Nobody cares. Like, just nobody cares. It's not motivational. It's not inspirational. It's kind of depressing, right? Actually. And it keeps us from catching up on email that collected over the weekend. And now we have to work 3 times as hard to get everything done today. So maybe just have like a Monday morning email blast and then a quick pre-lunch, 10-minute check-in. Did everyone get the memo? We're all on the same page. Does anyone have any questions? Anybody want to say anything? No? Okay, cool. We're done 5 minutes early. Bye. Have a great day. Maybe that's the Monday morning routine instead. Email blast, quick 10-minute check-in before lunch, whatever. Everybody jump on Teams for 10 or 15 minutes, do a little round table, maybe a fun, does anybody want to say anything about whatever? That kind of thing, really quickly. but like an hour-long Monday morning meeting may not be great feedback. And now the boss may be really attached to the hour-long Monday morning powwow. It may be the way they get energized for work that week, right? And they feel like, yep, box checked. I checked in with the team. I did the leadership thing. I did what all the leadership books told me to do because I don't have any original thoughts for myself. So I'm going to have to go and read all these things. And then I'm going to have to try to implement them all, even the ones that create a lot of cognitive dissonance. I've seen that. I don't know how many times. Don't be that guy. Think for yourself. Question authority. Thank you, Timothy Leary. Right? Think for yourself. Question authority. It is good to think for yourself. Don't take what I'm saying or what any other leadership author or thought leader or influencer says, just whole hog and just be like, oh, we have to do that. We have to adopt the EO operating system, or whatever, or we have to adopt the 4-hour work week, or we have to adopt this, this program or that program, or Dave Ramsey this, or Tim Ferriss that. They're great guys, great minds and leadership influencers and thought leaders on various topics, right? They all have valuable contributions to make, every single one of them. But for anybody to just thoughtlessly adopt whole hog an agenda or a way of doing things without really thinking about how it's going to work for their organization is reckless and lazy. So don't be that guy, right? Listen to the feedback from your team. Whenever you want to implement something, even if it's an open door policy, ask your team, how would an open door policy be valuable to you? What would you need at a minimum for you to feel like my open door policy is effective? So you might not immediately recognize someone's feedback as constructive, like, hey boss, Monday morning meetings suck, dude. Like, what are you doing? They're like, oh, you know what? I hear your feeling on that. Why do they suck? Like, what sucks about them? Why do you feel that way, and how could it be better? So it takes a lot of personal strength, because your knee-jerk reaction might be negative. You might be like, well, that's not constructive. You're just telling me that this sucks. You're not telling me anything useful. Go away. Don't you have work you could be doing right now instead of just complaining to me? But instead of taking that approach, the sort of sarcastic, dismissive, condescending attitude, instead go, you know what? I hear that and I value your feedback. I really do, sincerely. I'm going to need more from you, though. I need, why do you feel that way? And how can it be better at a minimum? So then you're giving feedback. You're creating a feedback loop. You're giving them feedback about their feedback that improves their feedback, right? And then you can take that and implement it. Listen, if this is hard for you, I want you to understand that it's normal. But as a leader, you need to master difficult conversations. If you can't have difficult conversations, you are going to struggle to effectively lead your team. You might be a fantastic manager, but you're not going to be a great leader. Just going to leave that to linger in the air for a minute. If you struggle to master difficult conversations, you might still be a good manager, but you're not going to be a good leader. Period. I will die on this hill. People take a risk when they bring you feedback. And it's important that you appreciate and acknowledge, like genuinely appreciate, they will know the difference, and authentically acknowledge their courage in bringing you their feedback. You got to facilitate that conversation. It is your job to provide a healthy, safe structure for the conversation. Address the conflicts when they arise, not if they arise, they will. Just be prepared for it. It's okay. And then work through what could be a difficult situation in a collaborative way. And I guarantee when you do that, the follower, the employee, the vendor, the customer is going to go, man, they really handled that well. That was smooth. Man, that went a lot better than I expected. I expected them to bite my head off, but man, they really genuinely appreciated my feedback. And they will not make a distinction between they appreciated my feedback and they appreciate me. They will feel appreciated as a person. They will take it personally. And that is the nut, right? They're going to take personally how you handle their feedback. If you handle their feedback with genuine care and concern and you treat it as valuable, then they will feel like you handled them with genuine care and concern and treated them as valuable. you can't expect them to make a distinction between how you feel about them and how you feel about their feedback. They will not make that distinction. And even if you explicitly say, you know what, I value you as a person, but I don't want to hear this feedback right now. They're going to be like, well, F you too. That's how they're going to feel. And you can't change it. You can't control it. It's just the way people are. So, embracing feedback deepens trust, right? You just have to understand these things. It comes with wisdom and maturity. You have to understand these things about the way people are about their feedback. It is really important. And data-driven companies like Google and Amazon and Microsoft, right? These big tech companies, they have changed the way our world works. And they have only amplified, like all of this has always been important, even before PCs were ubiquitous. But the way the world is now has taken that facet of human nature and the way we are and has amplified it exponentially. So it's more important now than it ever was before for you to deepen trust between you and your followers by demonstrating that you care about their opinions and their perspectives, that you're actually taking them into consideration. That means drawing them into your thought process and analyzing them as part of all of the factors that you're considering, not marginalizing them, not putting them off to the side and going, oh yeah, and so also cares about this. Not so-and-so cares about it, you care about it because they care about it and because you care about them. When other people feel heard, they'll have a lot more confidence in your ability to make informed decisions. If they feel heard, they will have confidence that you are making a more informed decision because they believe that their feedback ought to be part of the information that you consider when you make the decision. And if they see that, they'll be more likely to follow your lead. So you have to learn to navigate these difficult conversations and cultivate your own influenceability or receptivity, which will make it easier to lead your team in a collaborative and responsive way. You'll all be, in a sense, leading together. You'll be bringing them into the process because their feedback is part of your process in deciding what to do. They are contributing to your leadership and they are leading in a way with you, or they're at least contributing to the way you lead. That doesn't take anything away from you, doesn't diminish your authority. It heightens it, it strengthens it by making your motivational force stronger. So your influence with your team depends on your influenceability. How you're able to influence your team depends on how well you are able to incorporate their feedback into your leadership. In other words, your own ability to be influenced by them. Now, of course, there needs to be a balance, right? And you can't be a pushover or a doormat. I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that you let their feedback dominate the decision, but with transparency and authenticity, it needs to be part of it. Part of it, even if it doesn't change the outcome. Even if you're the 80% member in the LLC, you need to show the 5% member that their feedback is heard and seen and valuable and part of the equation of balancing what do we do? It's part of it. Even if ultimately their feedback doesn't change anything, it's still there in the mix and valued. So leaders that have strong character and they have a commitment to continual improvement are highly receptive to feedback, especially when it's constructive. They welcome all the feedback, they solicit it, they understand it's an integral part of a system of accountability and continual growth, and it serves the leader and everyone who follows them. And feedback's not always going to be positive. You have to be okay with that, right? It's not always going to be positive. But I think, again, I've mentioned Smile or Die. Go to the RSA Animates channel on YouTube and search for Smile or Die. Watch the Barbara Ehrenreich talk. It's cool because they do the, explainer marker video thing. I still like that. I know it's a little bit passe now, but I like it, even if it does feel anachronistic in 2024. I feel like this information is necessary for those who are committed to continual improvement. And I think it's important that leaders understand that people are taking a risk whenever they bring them feedback that is expected to be seen as negative, is expected to be perceived as negative. And being receptive to even negative feedback, if you want to, I think it's unhealthy to judge that, right? I don't think any feedback is positive or negative. It's feedback is just feedback, right? But what will be hard for a leader to hear, right? Being receptive to feedback that's hard for you to hear demands mastery in navigating complex interpersonal dynamics. And I think this is one of the most important things that a fractional chief legal officer brings to the table. You might say, well, what does a lawyer do for me in my business? What is a transactional preventive lawyer going to do? Well, one of the things they're going to do is they're going to help you navigate feedback. We've got a problem with the team. So and so doesn't like this. They're a necessary part of this team. They are a necessary cog in the machine. They're our chief operations officer, right? But they and the CEO are not getting along. They're fighting. These are two big executives, right? With important functions in the business, and they're not getting along. Or the chief operating officer's direct report, their sort of right-hand person is not getting along with the COO, and it's making the COO look bad because their whole job is operations and getting stuff done. And the COO is doing a great job, all things considered, except their direct report is really unhappy with their job, and they're fighting with the COO. And we don't want to lose their right-hand person because it would cost a lot to replace them. And they know kind of where all the bodies are buried. They know all the stuff. They have our access to our trade secrets and all this stuff. You don't have to be at the top layer of the organization. You just got to be like one or two notches down, and suddenly you are expensive to replace for that business. Enter the chief legal officer, or if your business is small or growth stage business and you can't afford a, $275,000 to $425,000 salary for a chief legal officer, and you want to hire someone for a little less than 50 grand a year instead. I mean, the cost of one full-time equivalent employee, right? Much less expensive, but you still have a powerful professional in your business. So you hire that fractional chief legal officer to come in and deliver a solution. What is the solution? Maybe instead of having the direct report, the VP of operations or whatever, in direct conflict with the COO causing the problem, you route that through legal. And now you have like an in-house kind of mediation. Or you have, hey, if you're not able to bring this feedback directly to your immediate supervisor because you're concerned about retaliation or whatever the issue may be, or you think they're not listening to you or whatever, now you have recourse to legal. Come over here and go through this policy and procedure, which is routed through legal. Legal will filter that and they'll take it to your boss or whatever, right? Or maybe it goes the other way around. Hey, I'm concerned because I need to manage this person. But if I do that, they're going to file a harassment complaint, a discrimination complaint, a whatever complaint. They're not going to be receptive. Or I need to tell this person that it's their last chance to fix their stuff or they're going to get fired, right? And I don't want to do that because I don't want to make the relationship worse, but I do need them to fix it. I don't want to fire them, but I need them to hear me very clearly without having to actually directly, explicitly say, get your stuff together or you're fired, right? I don't want to say that to them, but I need them to know that. When they're getting, an authoritative communication carefully and delicately crafted from legal in the company, from the company lawyer that says, hey, we have noticed that you've had several, performance reviews that just weren't glowing. And this relationship is, is strained. We'd really like to have some feedback from you about how things can be better. And we'd like for you to consider, that maybe it's time to explore other opportunities, right? We don't want you to leave the company. We'd like to save this relationship, but either you're going to need to start exploring other opportunities somewhere else that isn't going to violate your non-disclosure, non-compete agreement with us, or we're going to need to fix this relationship. How would you like to go forward? Can you give us some constructive feedback? And by the way, would you like to have a meeting about that? I have some time on my calendar. Here's a link that you can use to book in. It may not go exactly that way, but it's going to, in broad strokes, the outline of that communication is going to look something like that. Because it's not coming from the person that they're directly in conflict with, it's coming from the company lawyer. A, they're going to take it really seriously. And B, they're going to be, a little more, it's going to be like, oh, thank you for finally injecting some accountability and some clarity and some humanity into this relationship that, has really broken down in the relationship between me and my direct report. That's what I mean when I talk about being problem solvers and relationship managers. That's part of the power that a chief legal officer can bring. It's a fresh perspective. It's a different set of eyes and ears, right? And it's a very high and nuanced professional treatment of these interpersonal dynamics. And it's bringing a lot of leadership skill where there might be room for improvement in your existing leadership team. You might need an example for how to defuse these kinds of situations before they blow up into lawsuits or complaints to the Department of Labor or complaints to this government agency or that government agency. I mean, I do support a lot of businesses, but I get inquiries all the time, not just from businesses, but from the people who work for these businesses, from employees, from vendors, from suppliers, from customers. I get a lot of consumer law inquiries. I want to sue a business because they blah, blah, blah. And I think, well, that's going in the bank, right? That's going in the bank. And the next time I have a business client that is anyway, dealing with anything similar on the other side, I'm going to say, you know what? I've seen consumer complaints where this is the issue. And if the business had just done this, it would have resolved that. Why don't you implement this change in your business to prevent that from happening to you? Right? It's useful to engage with a lawyer who has vast experience on many different sides of these disputes. Could be the vendor side, the customer side, the business side. And because they have experience dealing with it from all these different angles, they can bring that perspective into your business and prevent those problems from cropping up in your business before it's ever a big issue for you. And that's the cheapest time to do it. If you wait till it blows up, well, then now you're dealing with litigation that could cost you tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars. And I'm not here to lead from a place of fear. I'm just here because I care about you, to say, I don't want that to happen to you. I care about you. I want your business to be more valuable, more stable, more efficient, more profitable. And it won't be those things if you wait until your issues become problems and then blow up. So nip it in the bud now while it's small. Now's a great opportunity. Now's a time to be really positive and, uplifting and constructive. And now is the time. When you're really going to feel bad and scared about things is if you don't proactively address those legal concerns. If you don't have the fractional chief legal officer to help you navigate these things on the front end, you're going to have to hire the litigation attorney on the back end. I've been doing this for a dozen years. And, my dad, who was a litigation attorney for 19 years, he told me, he said, that business model is never going to work. He was like, that won't work. And then like 4 years of profitability in, he goes, I've never been so happy to be wrong. And it made me feel wonderful, right? He had seen that most small businesses were just not willing to hire a lawyer on the front end. He's like, they're not going to see the value in that. They're not going to understand that. They're just going to wait till things blow up, and then they'll hire a guy like what I did, right? A litigator. That was his experience. And largely, I wish that he were wrong. I actually don't think my dad was wrong. I think that I've just been fortunate to be able to do things like this group coaching or do speaking engagements and do these other things. I've been plugged in to the small business community here in Middle Tennessee and on national platforms and regional platforms across the United States and around the world, right? I've been fortunate enough to find a way to get plugged in to opportunities to share this message of, listen to your employees, get better at leadership, get better at business, understand how to get a lawyer involved early and often. And enough people have responded to that message that they've seen the value and they've been able to hire me and save themselves millions and millions of dollars in some cases, in a lot of cases, actually. Right? The people who hire me to do preventive work have saved a lot of money. And there's been enough of that that I get to earn a living and doing something I love and helping a lot of people. So that's exciting. But my dad was actually right. There's probably more people that either don't know that this is what they should be doing, or they hear the message and they're not persuaded and they go on, they make their mistakes and they hire the lawyer, the litigation lawyer. It's probably more of them, sadly. It doesn't have to be that way, but it's just the way that things are. And I think mostly it has to do with people just not knowing that preventive law is even an option and not really knowing how to engage with it. So that's why I do this. That's why I do these group coaching sessions. I want to help people get better at leadership. I want to help people get better at preventing their legal risks from becoming legal problems. Right? I do the free group coaching. It's like spreading the gospel. I'm just out there to spread the gospel of more resilient leadership and preventive law, because I believe that if you adopt that, if you adopt that as an important value in your leadership of your business, then I'm going to get to do what I do for you and you're going to benefit from it. That's the magic, right? And I understand that a lot of what I have to say is hard. Like telling someone you have to have difficult conversations with people when they don't want to have difficult conversations with people, it's not always a popular message, right? But the message of love is surprisingly unpopular, really. It's easier to motivate with fear, but I hate doing that, and I don't really like the people who do that. Um, I've recently had a client hire me, and I asked them why they hadn't hired a lawyer before. And he said the lawyers that they had interacted with before came at them from a place of fear, came at them from, well, you got to hire me now or you're going to have to hire me later, that kind of thing. And I say, yeah, I try not to do that. I mean, it is the truth, but I really prefer to talk about how we're going to build your business and make it more valuable, how we're going to develop systems and processes that do, diffuse issues before they become problems. So that does add value. But I also want to talk, in addition to that, about how we're going to add real value to the business, how we're going to make it more efficient, and how we're going to make you more profitable. So I care about that. I want to help build a business along with you, right, as part of the leadership team, and get your business operations aligned with your legal goals and your legal, systems and processes aligned with your business goals. That's legal operations. So I want to do the legal operations work. I want to do the preventive law work. I also want to do the leadership coaching work, and I want to do it all together because that's where the magic is. And yeah, that's kind of a lot, but hey, that's my job, right? All you have to do is spend about an hour a week with me. And that might seem like something you also don't want to do. I don't know. Maybe you like me, maybe you don't, right? But do you like money? I mean, I like to see my clients make more money. I feel like I've added something valuable to their lives, when they have more success. I like for my clients to have more money. Do you like to have more money? Because I'm here for that. That's why we call the service Profit from Legal. We can make, if you engage with the service, it will make your business better and you'll make more. And I've seen that over and over with my clients. I can't guarantee it or promise it because only a shyster would do that. Only a dishonest person would do that. But I've seen it over and over. So, the service does what it says on the tin: profit from legal. Your influence ability, your receptivity, both to this message, to your clients and your customers and your vendors and your employees' feedback, your influence ability, your ability to influence and your ability to influence others, and your receptivity. Those are valuable traits. Those are powerful things for a leader to have. If you're not receptive, if you're hard-headed, if you're kind of boneheaded about things and you're like, I'm going to make my own mistakes, I'm going to carve my own path. Okay, that's fine. But the tuition in the school of hard knocks is super high. You think tuition's bad at our educational institutions, our institutions of higher education now? You think tuition inflation is just, which is like skyrockets in flight. If you look at it over the last 40 years, go do a Google search on that and get terrified, right? It's crazy. It's crazy how much education, the cost of education has increased from the time my parents were in school. Like when the boomers went to school, a bachelor's degree was cheap. You could work a part-time job in the summer and pay for college or whatever back in the day. Now, not so much. Not at all. From like millennials onward, the cost of education has just skyrocketed. But I'm here to tell you, compared to the school of hard knocks, education's still really cheap. It's still really cheap. Information, and in fact, if you put accreditation aside, if you put degrees on the wall aside, information generally has never been cheaper. Quality information and sifting through and knowing what's reliable information and not, it has gotten harder, right? There's a lot of misinformation out there, so there is a lot of value in accredited sources, in reliable sources, in high quality sources, in knowing that you're paying for good quality information. There's a lot of value still in formal education, I think. But even at institutions of higher education, there's a lot of indoctrination that goes on, and you do have to be careful, and you have to have the critical thinking skills within yourself and the values within yourself to sort through what is true education and what is indoctrination. So you want to be receptive, you want to be open-minded, but I guess the moral of this part of the story is be open-minded, but not so open-minded that your brains fall out. So remember, your influence depends on your own influenceability. Your ability to influence others depends on your ability to be influenced. It depends on your receptivity. So you should strive to welcome and solicit all feedback, navigate the difficult conversations, cultivate a spirit of receptivity and continual improvement, and include professionals in your organization that can grease the wheels, that you trust and have paid to give you valuable feedback, both their own and, be a conduit for that from your team, right? Do these things and you will be a better leader, and you will be less vulnerable to getting blindsided by stuff that you should have seen coming, but you didn't see it coming because you were not open to feedback. You were not receptive. You were not setting yourself up for success. Listen, if you want more insights like this, you can get my book, which is it's on sale now. It's on Amazon. It's also available from Barnes and Noble and lots of other sources. Right, independent booksellers even are stocking the book. The Montgomery County Public Library in Clarksville, Tennessee, in my hometown, has agreed to carry the book in their inventory. They're going to order it, or I talked to Miss Warfield, Jackie Warfield, over at the library, and she told me, she was like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and carry your book, and appreciate you being part of our local author event in March, on the 16th of March, around 1:00. So I'm really happy to be, as always, plugged into my community, and the public library carrying my book was really validating to me, and I really appreciate that. But it's great that it's going to be a resource that's available in the community. So even if you can't afford to buy my book, I'm doing free group coaching. I want you to even be able to read the book for free, so you can get it through the public library. I do need to kind of follow up with her and see if that's going to include availability through their ebook system, where they kind of lend out licenses to the ebook from time to time, because that would be cool. I would really like for people to even be able to sort of borrow the ebook, so to speak, from the public library. But it's not that expensive. Lead Again, I think it retails for like $18, if I'm not mistaken, on Amazon for the Kindle version, and it is a hefty book. It clocks in around I want to say it's like 315 pages on the ebook, or 338 pages, something like that, for the print version. But there's spacing there. It's not like tiny print all packed together. So You can get through it. If you read like a chapter a day, you'd get through it in about a month. So, and the chapters are designed, I originally thought of them as being like 30, 1,000 word essays. Some of them turned out to be more than that, substantially more than that. So there's some heft to it, right? But it's written to be readable. It's written with busy professionals in mind. So I want you to grab a copy and be able to get through it. And most importantly, there's a lot of value there. At the end of every chapter, there are like key takeaway summaries and action items, things that you can do right away to practically implement the guidance in the book and, come back from a leadership setback. Ultimately, that's the Ron Seal brand, right? Like that's, it does what it says on the tin. You should read this book if you need to lead again. If you've been knocked on your butt, in a personal or professional context, Lead Again is there to help you go from setback to comeback. So I hope you'll get a copy of Lead Again. You can also reach out to me for a free consultation, whether it's on a leadership topic or if the fractional chief legal officer, the part-time chief legal officer service I mentioned in the group coaching session would benefit your business, then reach out to me for that. It is designed to be affordable. We do offer invoice financing, in fact. So if you wanted to try the service out for one term, which is a quarter, is how long it takes, and you're like, I don't really know if it would be affordable. I don't know if it's going to move the needle for us and actually make us more profitable. But I want to try it out. We can let you take that invoice and finance it over a period of time that would make the payments affordable for you. And we do have some clients that engage with it, periodically instead of just continuously. So if you wanted to find a way to make a part-time chief legal officer work for your growth stage company or small company, we've been doing this for a dozen years. I genuinely believe there's not a business out there that I can't adapt our service to work for them, to work for their budget, to bring affordability, accessibility, and accountability in the attorney-client relationship for the business. I have yet to meet a business that I go, this just won't work for you. I have yet to meet one. So please reach out for a free consultation. It won't cost you anything to have the conversation. You can connect with me through the little QR code in the upper right-hand corner. And also, we're doing a really, really cool thing. Like, I'm into the free stuff. I want to give you as many free resources as I can. So I've got the book, which is available from the library for free. Hopefully, it'll be available through their e-lending program as well for free. That would be really cool. You can read a copy. You can read up to the first chapter of Lead Again for free if you go to our website, counselandclarity.com. Just poke around on the website for a little bit. You'll see it. And there you'll see a link to check out the book on the landing page. There's like a little video of me talking about the book. But then you can scroll down to the bottom of the landing page, and there's a link there where you can read all the way up through the end of the first chapter for free. I think I actually do need to update that preview though, because it may have been the version of the book that was prior to the final edited version. So it's kind of like a preview copy. So I'll go ahead and try to get that hammered out this week. But I mean, substantively, the material is going to be the same. So you can read up through the end of the first chapter of the book for free. So, free access to the book. I want to give as much of that as I can without giving the whole book away. But these free Rise Above group coaching sessions, I do that every week. And we also have a free forever membership site. It's called the Clarity Guild, and you can join that at absolutely no cost. We will never charge for that. I don't even plan to offer a freemium model at this point, although I'm not ruling that out. I'm not saying that we won't ever have premium resources on there. We might, but right now that's not in the works. Right now it's designed to just be free, a free community with valuable like discussion forums. There's over 100 posts in there right now, and we have several online courses that you can access through the community completely free. It doesn't cost anything. And then, of course, we put out content on the blog and on social media. So there's a lot that you can get without having to pay a lot of money, to a lawyer. So legal insights, leadership insights. I really do want to show up with value for every person that interacts with the Counsel and Clarity brand. And I genuinely, deeply believe in what I've been doing for the last dozen years. I do it not just for the money, not just to earn a living. Although I've been blessed, God does allow me to do this for a living, but it's not just about the money. I set out at the beginning of my law practice to do things a different way because I saw a real need. There were people coming in my office with lawsuits that never should have been. They would bring a breach of contract, for example, across my desk, and they would say, we want to sue this person for this because we had a verbal contract, you know, and it's a breach of contract, even if it's a verbal contract, but we're in a dispute. Our agreement with so and so was this, and we have a handshake deal, right? Or we have this contract and it was badly written. We downloaded it off the internet. Or so and so downloaded these things off the internet and they put it all together. We all signed it, but it's garbage. And now we're in a dispute and off to court we go. And they're paying, thousands of dollars for lawsuits. And why? Why are they doing that? They didn't hire the lawyer in advance, pay for a consultation, even $1,000, right? For a 2 hour long consultation, a $500, flat fee, 1 hour consultation, well worth it to get the insight, to get the foresight, to be able to see how you should move forward without messing everything up, right? And then follow the advice. You paid for the advice, follow it, implement it, right? Your life will be better. It will be marginally better. And you're much less likely to end up in a lawsuit that could cost you thousands or tens of thousands or millions of dollars. There's one guy that called me up a few years ago. I could tell stories all day long, right? A dozen years of legal practice. I could tell you so many stories. There's a guy that called me up and he said he was being sued for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he said, I'm a property scout and I scout properties for real estate investment companies. And I have put a mechanics lien on this house that's owned by this real estate investment company. And now they're suing me for hundreds of thousands of dollars because they say they couldn't use that house as collateral in a transaction that they were engaging in. And the cost of capital to them had increased hundreds of thousands of dollars because they didn't have the available assets in the mix for qualification. And so they had to borrow money at a higher rate. Now they're suing me for the marginal additional cost to them in this transaction because I put this lien on the property. And I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars. I live in a trailer. My net worth is, hundreds of dollars, not hundreds of thousands of dollars. What options do I have? Did I have a right to put a lien on this for the half of my fee that I charged them that they refused to pay? And I said, well, you would have had a right to put the lien on the property if you had sued them first and for breaching the agreement to pay you the other half of the fee that you're owed. You would have had a good lawsuit. You did a service, the fee was agreed upon, and they only paid you half. And they didn't pay you the other half. And you could have gone and got a judgment and then attached the judgment lien to their asset. But you didn't do that. You just scampered on down to the Register of Deeds and filed a lien that you weren't entitled to file. So they kind of got you. So now you might try to assert the defense, doctrine of unclean hands as an affirmative defense or something like that. But honestly, your position is not good here, right? And I'm not going to defend you in this lawsuit. because I don't want to charge you a bunch of money that you can't afford to pay me to try to defend a lawsuit you probably aren't going to win. So, I know some bankruptcy attorneys, you can talk to them, but I hate it when conversations go that way. How terrible is that? This guy being put into the position where he may have to consider bankruptcy when he could have just had a conversation with the lawyer before he scampered off to the Register of Deeds office to file this. I laugh to keep from crying. I'm not laughing at his pain, but it's just, I chuckle because it's like, I can't believe it, It's really out of a sense of, did you really think this was okay? And why wouldn't you just call a lawyer and ask them if it's okay? It is not better to ask forgiveness than permission. It's not. Ask for permission. Ask for the insight from the lawyer. Usually, you know what that costs? Nothing. Nothing. Most lawyers, if you called them up and said, "Hey, I've got a quick question. I need to know if I can file a lien against this property, and I need you to advise me. I need some insight here." Most lawyers who are going to take your call are not going to charge you anything for that. I wouldn't have charged anything. I would have charged him nothing to tell him, "Don't do that. That's a terrible idea." If you call the lawyer and you say, "I think I might have a lawsuit here. I want to know if I can file um, I want to know if I can file a lien or if I need to sue the person first." For free, the lawyer is going to say, "No, you need to sue them first." And then the conversation becomes, well, can I hire you to sue them for this breach of contract and then put the lien on their asset? The lawyer's going to go, "Sure. Yeah, absolutely. You can hire me to sue them for that." You might want to ask for a contingent fee if your net worth is hundreds of dollars and you can't really afford to hire the lawyer. You might want to negotiate with the lawyer about that. But they're going to tell you for free, "No, don't go put the lien on the property right away. That will get you sued into oblivion, apparently." Right? It is not better to ask forgiveness than permission. It is not better to make your own mistakes. Tuition in the School of Hard Knocks is too expensive. The tuition is too damn high, right? Remember that guy? The rent is too damn high. He had the cool mustache, the chop stash, right? He was fun. So get the lawyer in advance, right? Put them in your business, have them help you with both better leadership, with feedback, with being receptive to customers, to vendors, to employees. Like, let them be a safe channel for that communication. If you can't handle it, then watch how they do that and take the best of their techniques for yourself. Let them inform you and train you about how to be more receptive to feedback. Let them grease the wheels in your business, in your organization, between the top leadership, you, the stakeholders. Among all of those stakeholders, get them communicating better together, right? And a lot of that is just being receptive to the feedback, saying, "Look, hey, I'm an independent contractor here. I'm just the fractional chief legal officer here. I don't have a dog in the fight, right? So I'm just here to listen. You can say anything to me. I'm not going to get hurt. I'm not going to get my feelings hurt. I'm not going to get all bent out of shape about it, right? And you need to bring it to me before this gets worse." Like, I have that guy in your business. And then that person says to the CEO or the COO or whoever it is that's having trouble hearing the feedback, "Hey, listen, you hired me to give you really good feedback, right? Don't get mad because that's not going to help you. But what this person's saying is things could be better if you did these steps, you took these steps. Is there a way that we could implement this feedback in the thing?" By the way, it's not about you personally. It's not, don't take it personally, right? They're not saying you're a bad leader. They're saying this process could be better if. The lawyer translating the feedback. Now, the actual raw feedback from the subordinate might be, "My boss sucks because they won't listen to me when I say this, blah, 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 blah." What you really meant to say was, "This process could be improved in these ways." Translate that for the manager. The manager receives it now in a way that doesn't trigger them into their, "Oh my gosh, they think I'm a bad person and a bad boss because I'm not able to hear them say this, that, and the other." And you all improve. More receptivity, better leadership, fewer legal disputes, a more valuable company, more efficiency, more effectiveness, higher profits. It's possible when you combine resilient leadership techniques and preventive law. It's super powerful. And more insights like this are coming to you for free every week right here. Tune in next week. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Hit that little notification bell. Follow me on LinkedIn and Instagram or Twitter or wherever you like, Facebook. And I'll be right here. Here's that follow again link if you want it before we close out. And you can grab a copy of Lead Again from the other QR code in the other corner. I hope I'll see you next week. That's all the time I have for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me some feedback. I want your feedback. Please hit me up with the comments. I will read all of those and thank you for them. Appreciate you.